This is glamorous, isn't it? Right, hello everyone, this is Something a Little Bit Strange. David here from Camber Media, and today we've got the rather awesome Ben Robinson, and this is a bit overdue, isn't it? We've missed the boat for the 2019 review.
Yeah, both of us were so busy at the end of last year as well, doing so many different things, but we got there anyway, eventually.
So what's not happened is we've not seen everybody else doing this on Facebook and thought, oh crap, we better go and get one done.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, honest. Anyway, 2019 was the first year that we crossed paths at Knockhill. Safe to say it's been a pretty epic year and a hell of a learning curve for you, Ben.
Absolutely, yeah. First year doing it as well, any sort of competition wise anyway, other than a very short spate doing fiestas about 10 years ago. Yeah, very steep learning curve, turning up at Knockhill for the first round and just trying to take it all in, and everyone else is all getting set up and I'm sitting there like having a sandwich, you know, just about to go out on track and no idea what's coming up next.
It wasn't just SuperLap Scotland though, was it? I mean, it's bad enough, you know, taking on a brand new championship for your first time, but you were doing time attack as well.
Yeah, that's right. So not long after doing the first round up at Knockhill, I think it was only 2 weeks later, I was then doing the first round of UK time attack as well. Again, whole load of other people. It did mean though that I actually ended up meeting the team who have helped me most of the year, Soda Motorsport, when I was down there, purely by chance, by virtue of me parking next to them in the end when we went down to Cadwell, which really was a stroke of luck because they've been so much help all throughout the year.
So what I want you to tell us about is, obviously you had your expectations going into the first season, your first ever season of motorsport. What were those?
So obviously I've got a Noble. It's a quick car. I thought of myself as a quick driver. Turned up to Knockhill, and in my class there was a Caterham and some Subarus, and I'm thinking, you know what, I should breeze this. Every time I've been going around on track days, nobody else has really been able to get anywhere near me, and then got humbled very, very quickly in the first session when I think it was Craig Nichol actually in the Caterham went out, and he was about 4.5 seconds quicker round a sub-minute lap round Knockhill, yeah, it was very, very humbling, and to be honest, it almost put my head out of it altogether, because I had planned to do the full season, spoken with Rory at the time, yeah, to then come off in last place in every session was a bit downhearted, to be honest.
How did you deal with that? So you came into the season with quite lofty expectations, and then you were brought down to earth with a hell of a bump.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you after that first weekend. How did you pick yourself back up after that?
To be honest, after the first round, I really thought, you know what, actually maybe it's not for me. Maybe I have come in too deep. But then, as I say, because I was going to Cadwell for the time attack, that was already paid. I went down there, and I ended up. I was running second most of the day in the time attack, and then I finished third. The weather wasn't very great to me. Always an excuse, of course. But yeah, that on its own brought me back up again, because my first UK time attack round, I came home with a nice trophy out of it as well. And I don't know, it just kind of changed mentality a little bit. And I also think it allowed me to grow as a driver, because I'd only ever driven round Knockhill. It was the only track I'd ever been round. And going to another track, again, first time there as well, at Cadwell. And I learnt more about how the car handled as well in certain situations. Learnt to play with the grip levels with the tyres a bit more as well, and decided that actually it was for me. And obviously I'd already started in SuperLap, so I couldn't not continue with it. And so yeah, I just tried to prepare more mentally for Knockhill. I even bought myself a Project Cars 2, and practiced as much as I could around Knock Hill.
Did you enjoy the track limits on that game? They're very strict, aren't they?
Yeah, they are very strict. Yeah, they really are very strict on it. But no, yeah, it was all from that point onwards. It was all about preparing for the next round. As soon as I'd finished one round in one of the championships, prepare for the next one. It wasn't waiting.
And the only thing I was going to add to that is, from my point of view, it was noticeable because after speaking to you on the first rounds and then seeing you on the following rounds, you seemed a lot more focused and a lot more determined.
Yeah.
Was that what sort of helped you have the strong performances?
I think so, yeah. As I say, humbled to begin with, then performed, then prepared, and then it's right, put it all into action, and we're serious now. You know, it's not just a turn up, have a play, go around as many times as you can. It was take notes on tyre pressures, take notes on suspension settings, take notes on track times and where I think I'm finding more time as well. So taking a different line in different sessions to see what worked and what didn't work, instead of, as I say, just going around and pounding around the laps and enjoying it, but not performing as such.
Yeah, because obviously with these time-based competitions, it's obviously about doing exactly that, finding that extra time. You're not going to find that extra time by doing the same thing over and over again. The other thing is, as well, Ben, is that, I mean, it's been a hell of a season for you, and you've had some incredible highs, and you've also had some incredible lows. Do you have any personal highlights from the year?
Low points, obviously, round one, going in thinking I had a good chance of winning and being dead last. When we went to Alton Park, that's when I got my first real taste of having a chance of winning, actually. I think that was, I think it was round three of the UK time attack. Because I'd gone down a couple of days before, did a full day of testing down there, then went into the competition day, and all of a sudden I was 1.5 seconds quicker than Alex Bones in his Evo, who was the benchmark. I mean, he's a fantastic driver in a great car with a great team behind him, and I was going a lot quicker. And I thought, you know what? Actually, this really is coming together now. And then off that, getting better and better and better. In the qualifying, I ended up having my first gearbox failure. I'd only managed to set one hot lap in the qualifying as well, and Alex didn't beat that lap until right at the very end of the qualifying session. So I was sitting in the pits, like head in my hands, going, that's the end of the day, I'm finished, but at least I've qualified first. Yeah. And then he beat it. So I ended up being second in that. Had a real talking to with the team, and we sat down and worked out some numbers on what impact it would have to the championship if I didn't compete. And basically what we'd worked out was, if I scored no points from that round, Alex would have essentially gone on to win the championship anyway. Mm-hmm. And so we had to put in a lap for the qualifying. So I had no fourth gear. Went out and just put in a lap, and the lap we put in without fourth gear was still good enough for second place. So it kept the championship alive. And then the following round we went to Donington, and that's where we really did win. Everything came together just right. It was so close in the qualifying on that one, because I'd literally crossed the line with about 5 seconds left to go in the session, and that final lap, I went almost a second quicker than I'd been previously, which was good enough for first place, despite having a big spin again due to a coolant hose that burst on me, which was another big issue, whereby I had to basically just take a step away from the team, let the team do their job for about 2 hours fixing the car while the red mist disappeared. And then, ultimately went on to win that round, which was brilliant. That felt, even though I had won at that point, around at Knock Hill, it was almost by default, because there were 3 of us competing at that round Fraser had an engine blow up. So it was basically just myself and one of the Subarus, and I beat the Subaru. I won first place, but it didn't quite feel the same as when we won at Donington in the time attack. Yeah,
Donington was almost like an entire season in the one weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a crazy weekend. It really, really was.
Okay, so very quickly, just to let you know why we're inside a van. It was absolutely tipping it down when we did start recording this, and it's now cleared up again. So we're too lazy. It's too warm in here. It's lovely. 2020, we obviously move on to next season. You've got lofty plans, and it's not just this year. It's an entire 2-year plan that you've got set up, isn't it?
Yeah. So I don't like doing things by half at all. I want to go in and I want to win everything that I can, basically. So instead of building the car slowly, as many people have done with their Nobles, I mean, there's quite a few guys out there. Graham Davidson, for example, he competed with his very successfully and has gone on to much bigger things now. Kevin Jones with his, and Simon Roberts as well, who's been a big help for me in the plans that we're developing. So basically what I've done is I decided to take all the best bits from all of them and put it all together in one go, which is basically over the next 4 months. The car is going from a almost completely bog standard road car into what will essentially become a GT3 car. So yeah, there's even just today actually, we've officially put in the order for the Hollinger gearbox. Now that's got to come over from Australia as well, which is going to take 12 to 15 weeks to get here, and then there'll be quite a bit of fabrication to actually get it into the car. A few safety modifications need to be made to the car as well, to bring it all up to standard. The bodywork itself, we're going for what's called an RSR kit, which is developed by Jetstream Motorsport for the car as well. Basically making the car about 4 inches wider, much more aerodynamic as well at the same time, because even though it may look very, very sleek, it's actually not that aerodynamic. Yeah. It generates a lot of front end lift once you start pedaling quite hard, and there's a big basically gaping hole in the back of it that just causes turbulence. So it's a fastback that's going onto it as well. Also bought a new GT3 spec rear wing for the car as well. It's out of carbon fibre, so it's a lot lighter than the one that's on the car as well. The body itself is much lighter than the body that's on the car at the moment. Wheels are going wider as well, so they're about 2 inches wider in that respect. It's just, yeah, basically anything and everything. All the ECU's changing. We're hoping to fit some traction control to the car, and different power settings as well for power deployment, so that I'm not just putting my foot down, getting a lump of torque and it spins up the rears, so that it can bring it in more modulated and yeah, just make it a more drivable car, basically. So there's so many changes happening to the car, and it's happening so fast. How do you prepare yourself for the changes with that car? Or is it going to be a sort of suck it and see approach? Or have you also thought about the mental preparation for that? Because obviously it's not just the parts that are changing, but also it's a lot of your money that's been invested into this car. Will that change you as a driver? I don't know, is probably the real answer. I know I'm putting a lot of money into it, and ultimately I don't want to bend it. But there is obviously there's a process going through of how I then jump into the car. So initially we're going to be running it actually with less power than what I'm running at the moment. So I was running just over 400 horsepower for 2019. For Super Laps, I'm going to be in the class below, so class C. So I think that's what 380 per ton, I think it is. In fact, it'll be the one below that actually. But class C, yeah, anyway. Yeah. So we'll be running less power, and the whole point behind that is just to get more to grips with the car itself. And then for time attack, we'll start dialing the power up a bit, right, to again see how we're getting on with the car itself. We're expecting to find other weaknesses in it somewhere, because, well, it is essentially at that point just a newly developed car. But yeah, mentally, I'm kind of going into it blind, to be honest. Just go careful to start with.
You don't do things for half, do you?
No, absolutely not.
The other question that obviously on my lips is why? Why put all this effort into the car? It's a lesser known car. I mean, obviously inside automotive circles we all know Noble as a performance brand, but anybody on the outside looking in would be like, oh well, why don't you just get like a Porsche or a McLaren or something like that and put the money into that?
To be honest, there's actually been a few of the people that I've been speaking with whilst looking at how we're going to develop it. I've basically said exactly the same thing. Why don't you go out and buy a fully prepped car? Go and buy a Ginetta or a GT3 Porsche or something like that. And to me, it kind of comes back to the whole reason why I bought the Noble in the first place. I saw it on Top Gear in 2004,
yep,
and absolutely fell in love with it. I'd never seen one on the road or anything like that, but always said to myself, by the time I'm 30, I want one of those. I went out and I got it, and I used it as an everyday car for about 2 years. We ran Knock Hill with it quite a lot, and every single person who comes over to you goes, oh, what's that? Or they want to talk about it, or I've never actually seen one of these. And it's different.
Yeah.
You know, it is different. By all means, as I say, I could have gone out, I could have sold the car, bought a fully prepped race car already. But I quite like the idea of the development side of it as well. And ultimately, it is still going to be a road car. It is still going to be MOT'd. It will still be taxed, despite it being a very, very quick and capable car.
But are we going to see it at Asda on a Friday night getting the shopping?
Probably not, because there isn't very much space inside the car. But I will probably still take it to work every now and then, just to take it for a run and stuff. And I mean, with Knock Hill being so close as well, it's actually quite handy just to drive it up there, go around the track on the testing days, and drive it back home again.
Now, one other thing that you're going to have to do with that car is obviously taking it up to show off its sponsors and all your sponsor duties and things like that. You've had quite a lot of success so far this year with bringing brands and companies on board. Absolutely,
yeah. Biggest one, of course, was Arnold Clark, and they've been great with me as well. So I've taken the car over to Arnold Clark's GTG training office. They let the they let the apprentices loose on the car essentially. They've done some servicing, they've done some checks on the car for me as well, make sure it all went well. They did a similar sort of interview like this up there as well, and that all goes onto their employment pages and stuff. And it shows that like a big company like Arnold Clark still does care about the likes of us. Obviously, with me working with them as well does help. But yeah, Arnold Clark's been very, very, very helpful. The hat as well, of course, Fast R. They really, really came through for me at the end of last year when I think it was the fourth gearbox issue that I'd had, and basically they really stepped up and they said, look, I'd like to help, and they did. And the whole motorsport community, to be honest, came together. Like, as I say, Solar Motorsport, just by virtue of parking next to them, they then became my team. I've got a couple of smaller guys as well, like Keith from KB Dents. He's absolutely brilliant at getting dents out of cars. Just a little one-man band, and he was there from the very start. Actually, when I first mentioned to him that I was going to go racing, he said, "All right, I'd like to help." And it's just stuff like that. To be honest, it really is good and helpful. And without them, I wouldn't be here. So thank you.
Excellent, I like that. Going back to the future plans then, we've obviously spoken about Time Attack, we've spoken about SuperLap Scotland, and one thing that you have mentioned to me in the past is Britcar.
Yeah.
That's a big step in a very different direction from Time Attack and time trial based challenges to, I mean, obviously you've got plans to take part in the chase race as well.
That's right.
So, I mean, where ultimately do you see this taking you?
To be honest, I don't know. The ultimate one, I don't know. Just as far as we can go with the car, I suppose.
All right. That's a cop out answer.
As far as we can, yeah.
Where if money was no object, what would Ben Robinson love to do?
Honestly, I would money no object,
Money,
and
no
that
object.
is a dream sort of scenario. Is we would do Le Mans. Absolutely,
Wow,
we would do Le Mans. If the funds were available and the time was available, and the people were available, then I would do Le Mans.
So the endurance sort of category is where you see yourself.
Yeah, so sports car racing. Britcar itself, it's a 2-hour endurance race. They do longer ones as well now, all over the country. There's loads of different categories that I could essentially race the car in. But no disrespect to the lower formulas, I'm getting on a bit now. You know, I'm into my 30s. The time for realistic.
God, that's like so old, Ben.
I know. But most people, when they start racing and to be competitive, start young. They start in the lower formulas. They start off in karts or something. I started off racing mini motos when I was 13 years old. That's what I started on. But realistically, to compete at the top level now, I basically need to go to the top level. That's how I see it anyway. And spending all the money on the car and the development of the car, we might as well aim for the top. So yeah, that's why Britcar is the goal for 2021. I do need to upgrade my license, which is why I'll be doing the chase race for 2020 as well. And also, I quite with Britcar, it gets a lot more exposure. There's a lot more pedigree to it. Like Brabham, for example. Brabham released their new car in Britcar for 2019. That's what they used as their platform to release it. And I think it would be good to see a Noble on the TV again as well, to be honest.
I certainly wouldn't agree. I certainly wouldn't disagree with you there.
Lee Noble, actually, he raced his Noble in Britcar many years ago with a guy called Dave Beasley, who's actually the mechanic who's helping me with a lot of the car as well. So hopefully Dave will be on board as well for that.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Obviously, with moving up and as you said, it's got more pedigree and it's higher up the motorsport ladder. Do you think that's going to make it easier for you bringing sponsors on board and bringing partners on board for yourself?
I certainly hope so. I'm definitely going to need them. I've put together a very rough budget of what it will cost me to run through the season, and not taking into account any failures of parts and such like, but just to run through the season. And I definitely can't do it alone. I definitely need people around to help with that, but also obviously need to give back to them as well, because ultimately that's why they do it. But yes, with it being a much I don't know the word, a much higher standard of racing as well, then it does get much more like television exposure, for example. There's a lot of stuff online about Britcar. I mean, it's a proper pedigree racing series. You've got all your McLarens, your
it's
Ferraris,
almost like a stepping stone into the GT circle.
Yes.
So obviously the likes of I've completely forgotten his name. The guy you just met,
Graham Davidson.
Yes, Graham Davidson. How could I forget Graham? How can you forget Graham Davidson?
Yeah, sorry, Graham.
Yeah, sorry, Graham. But you know, it's the sort of thing that would be used by people like him to be a stepping stone to where he is now. And we've seen a lot of great teams and great drivers come through Britcar. Obviously, that's one step there. Could potentially be a Blancpain GT series?
Well, we never know. It would be great.
I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, it would be great to do something like that. It really, really would. At that point, we may need to move away from the Noble.
Yeah.
Maybe get Noble involved. They've got a new car that's hopefully going to be coming out in the next year or so. That would be really nice. But if not, then we may need to move away from the Noble at that point. But if we can prove the driving ability is there, if we can prove that the team are capable, then absolutely.
So we've spoken about a couple of years off down the line, we've spoken about next season, we've spoken about the season past. With the highs and lows that you've went through this season, I just wanted to touch on one little bit for you personally that I hope can help some of the other drivers out there. What's kept you going through everything that's gone on?
That's a good question, actually. Purely, I'm very self-motivated. I mean, I work a lot. I mean, I'll start early in the morning. I'll finish very late at night. I do that 7 days a week sometimes. And a lot of the stuff that I've been working at my work towards is purely for the racing. So it is, it's more of like a focus point for me, I guess. I've always wanted to go racing. I've always wanted to. I mean, that's why I tried the Fiestas about 10 years ago. Unfortunately, at that point in time, it wasn't for me. I was a student, wasn't earning very much money. Sponsorship really wasn't a thing to be had to race 30-year-old Fiestas at that point. And I had lots of problems with the car. Whereas now I'm in a much better position where I can go out and do it. And to be honest, the enjoyment side of it isn't, as I say, it's not all about the winning. Like in the time attack, for example, I got disqualified. I had so many issues with the gearbox. I had that big spin at Donington as well, as I say, where the red mist really came down. But I still get back in the car and love driving it. And ultimately, it kind of sounds odd, but I don't think the winning is the top point. It's the chasing to win that really gives the real adrenaline rush. Like you're there, you're catching, you're getting quicker and quicker. Then you win, then it's fantastic. But then after that point, it's right. Let's move on. Whereas all the time that we've been chasing, you're getting better and better and better and better and better. And I think that's why we don't want to stand still. That's why we're setting big aims like Britcar.
Yeah. And it also ties in with something that is quite common, not just with motorsport, but with a lot of things as well. Is that it's about the journey. It's not about the destination, because once you get there, suddenly everything has been achieved, and you're like, oh right, what do I do now then? And you kind of slow down, and it's keeping that momentum going.
You need to set the next goal. Yeah. Set the next goal. And constantly be doing that. That's like with all the development that we're doing with the car this year, even though I'll be in, as I say, a lower class in SuperLap, because it's all based on power to weight ratio, in time attack we're actually jumping up about 3 different classes. Excuse me. So we're going from clubman. We'll then pass over the club class. Realistically, it could bypass club pro, and end up in the pro class. Yeah. But we're going to stay with Club Pro, which is something that I said earlier about it still being a road car, and that's purely because we can still use road tyres for that class.
So 2020 shaping up to be a fantastic year for yourself, Ben Robinson. Looking forward to seeing loads of stuff about that in Time Attack and in SuperLap Scotland. Anything you want to say to the viewers at home?
Yeah, everyone, look, just keep tuned. Thank you very much for everyone's support throughout last year, friends, family, all the sponsors as well, of course, and everyone who's helped out with the car, including yourself, Canberra Media, can't forget that. One thing that I did want to say actually as well is, if anyone ever spots me at a track, as long as it's not a race day, come over, say hello, and as long as they're permitted, you're more than welcome for a passenger ride in the car as well. Just introduce yourself, say hello, and we'll get you out in the car as well.
I never got a passenger ride. Ben, thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you.
There we go. Perfect.
Excellent.